views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the commentators, guest, and host. They do not explicitly or necessarily reflect nor represent the policy or the views held by Tobago Updates or this network. Tobago Updates or this network cannot be held accountable for all or any views expressed during this program.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Vox Populi with yours truly, Barrington Skippy Thomas. Welcome again to another edition. This evening we have some matters to discuss, but we have to discuss it in a particular way and with some decorum and with some disciplined specificity, because if I tell you and if I repeat what everybody told me in the street about these two topics, they lock up everybody in Tobago Updates, including me. So I can't tell you what the people in the streets tell me. But the topics are Rowley's olive branch that he said he refused to extend to Farley Chavez Augustine, and the economic decline in Tobago that ran as a consequence of the Cabo Stars engine fire. The economic decline, things going bad and so. Well, the Prime Minister said those who are complaining about the economic decline, they are being unreasonable. So those are the two topics. One woman told me, she said, when you go on the TV, tell Rowley, and she described a place where you should put the olive branch. I just keep my head straight and walk away. And next woman say unreasonable, and she started to tell me some other things about a sheep farm. I say, you have a good day, madam, I gone. People are angry, and we'll discuss these issues. Before we proceed, let me do some housekeeping things. I want to say a very good evening to Miss Stella Wint. Miss Stella Wint, for those of you who do not know, is from Lambo Village in Tobago. She has been the executive secretary of 3 successive prime ministers. Dr. Eric Williams in his very late part, Mr. George Chambers, and Mr. Patrick Manning for most of her career. Her son was the gentleman, Captain Wint, that was the director of the ODPM at one time. He's doing something very spectacular now with disaster management and so, but at the CARICOM level. So he's leading the CARICOM effort in disaster management. So that is the Miss Stella Wint of whom I speak. She's from Lambo. She's the daughter of, when I was in Lambo school, I still don't know that woman's name. Everybody, we just grew up and know her as Tajim. She's Tajim's daughter. So good evening, Miss Wint, and good evening to Alicia Sharp, who is there with Miss Wint as I speak to you. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Before we proceed, I just want to send a warning, and that warning is to the, what they claim, the EBC. And I'll say nothing in detail, except to say, I am aware, I am seized of your meeting last week. I have a recording, or you like to talk about recording? I have a recording of what you have asked an employee to do. And I want to say to the EBC, cease and desist from that conduct. Because Justice Frank C. Passad said it very recently, in fact 2 days ago, Monday it was, when he said, we are now living in a society with impatient people, impatient citizens. And when your citizens have reached the stage that they no longer trust the results of the elections, then we are standing on a precarious position on the edge of a precipice, end of quote. That was Justice Frank C. Prasad. And he continued, quote, and in those circumstances, those impatient citizenry who cannot rely on the results of the election will create a result of their own. What Justice C. Prasad said to this nation, and that came out of the Arima matter I spoke to you all last week about. So what happened with the Arima matter is that there was a procedural error, and as a result of the procedural error, that the procedural error had some statutory requirements and underlying to it, and in the haste to file it, the lawyers may have omitted that. And let me tell you why it was omitted. Well, I suspect why it was omitted. Simply because the candidate really did nothing. So they had named all the persons purported to have played a wrongdoing part in the procedure. They were the ones they named. But the law also said you must name the candidate in the action, the successful candidate, because the determination of the court will have a resultant effect and impact upon that successful candidate. So that candidate wasn't named, and the lawyers for the candidate and the PNM have argued that the matter should be struck out on the basis of that statutory hiatus and so. But the judge said, while he's bound to strike it out, he did say the matter was not without merit. And he sounded the alarm bell, as I just said to you, that when we meet the stage where we cannot trust election results from the election officials responsible for tabulating such results, then it means that we are now on the dangerous brink of a precipice, and citizens will start creating election results of their own. That was an alarm bell sounded by Justice Frank C. Prasad from the high courts of this country. Right, so we move on. The matter of the audit report will be no more. Well, let me put it this way. The matter of the audit report would be suspended pending certain outcomes. It cannot be spoken about, cannot be referred to, it cannot be revealed. An injunction was served. An injunction was served upon me to make updates and so concerning revealing that parts and so of that audit report after the 2 pages were revealed. Simply put, until that interim injunction is removed, you would understand why, out of respect for the rule of law and deference for the court, I'm unable to show you more of that. An injunction is preventing me from doing that. But I just want to tell you something. Take note that it was an injunction and not a defamation action. Right? So let's move on to tonight's so let's move on to that injunction was served on me and so served on me by KAI Engineering and Construction Limited. I don't know who they are. The court have made its order. As a law-abiding citizen, I am in duty and bound to adhere to all directives and all orders of the court. Right. So let's move on now to what we could describe to be, let's reach on now to what is the substantive topics for tonight. All right, I know some of you saying you're late and so let me just repeat. After last week's show, an injunction was served on me, and the court have prohibited me under pain of punishment to not repeat or reveal anything out the audit report. The persons who have secured that injunction was KAI Engineering and Construction Limited. So we'll be discussing nothing else. I don't know who they are. Maybe maybe there might be people known to you all. They're not known to me. But what is known to me is that an order from the High Court of Judicature is not something to treat with trivially. You don't trifle with it. If that is the court's interim order, then I am in duty and I am bound to obey the court's order. Right? Good. Hey, let me say good night to my little baby girl, Peanuts. And that's that she mother now telling me that she looking. I'm not sure if she would understand what's going on, but the mother tell me she looking on. I suspect she might just be laughing. Papa, so. Right. So let's move on. Now, there is an oath in law. There is an oath in law. It's not a political oath. It is not an emotional oath. The oath is prescribed in the schedule of the law, in the constitution, that must be taken, well, administered and taken for a person to hold public office. That oath, my friends, is this. If somebody put up your hand, your right hand, or you swear by the Bhagavad Gita, or the Quran, or the Holy Bible. I don't swear, I affirm, so you'll forgive me, everybody have their own belief system. So the oath would be, I, Keith Rowley, do swear by Almighty God that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago. I will uphold the Constitution and the law. And I will discharge my duty as Prime Minister without fear or favor, affection or ill will. And then a book is open for you and you affix your signature on the book. That is a legal requirement. That is not a political requisite. That is not an emotional position about who you like and who you like. I want you, Trinidad and Tobago, to listen to the Prime Minister from his press conference 13 September 2023. Listen to the Prime Minister and remember what I told you. The oath. I, Keith Rowley, do swear by Almighty God that, or affirm that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago. I will uphold the Constitution and the law. And I will discharge my duty as Prime Minister without fear or favor, affection or ill will. That is in a schedule in the Constitution. And if it's a schedule in the Constitution, it is established and settled law and part of our supreme bundle of laws known as Act Number 1, the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. Hear this and we'll continue the discussion.
At a level that it does not become you worthless.
I know you mentioned difficulties uniting or working together with the opposition, but would you extend an olive branch to the Chief Secretary, Falia Augustine?
What you interfering Falia for? Falia more problems than you can deal with. I have, again, I like to be understood for who I am and what I am. I went to Tobago. A new government was in place, made up of young people. Most of them had never managed a foul coup. I called the leader in and we sat. First time we sat and talked, we didn't talk any business. We just had breakfast like two civilized human beings. That was the first time. I invited him to the Prime Minister's residence, and we had breakfast. And we talked about things in general. The second time, I took a delegation of ministers whose portfolios had some direct contact with Tobago's business. Planning and Development, Attorney General, Minister of Works, Minister of Tourism, and so on. And I sat with them from 12 o'clock until 6 o'clock. Explaining how the Assembly and the central government functions. And basically, that was the relationship. The last time I sat with the Chief Secretary, it was at my request, I called him, and the purpose for that particular meeting was to broach the idea of central government alongside the THA, or receiving from the THA, or assisting the THA with a development plan for Tobago. So that if we get that development plan and agree on it, and it has the buy-in on both sides, it doesn't matter who is in office in Tobago. When you're in office, you just have to do the job, do the work. But the work is known to all of us. And you have the support of the central government. That's the last time I saw Fali. The next time I saw him, other than that meeting, was in the Assembly, in a special sitting of the Assembly, called specially to advise Tobago that the Prime Minister and the central government is undermining his administration in a huge conspiracy with the Commissioner of Police and my private lawyer. And I have been meeting with some man who, you saw the story. All I can tell you, I haven't gotten over that yet. Because you see, that is probably, and the story is carrying on in Tobago because they keep having meetings trying to defend Tobago from this situation. But as I said earlier on, we are sitting at the General Assembly of the United Nations as the president. But the head of the executive in Tobago at the THA is telling the world that in Trinidad and Tobago, how it go is that the Prime Minister and the Commissioner of Police is undermining the duly elected House of Assembly in Tobago in criminal activity. That is what it is. That was not Tobago's story. That's a story that went worldwide. When I recover from that, I'll let you know. Thank you all very much. Thanks for coming.
Now, listening to the Prime Minister, what you just heard there, Trinidad and Tobago, is a man in breach of a constitutional oath administered upon him. And that oath is important, you know. I remember as a younger politician in Tobago. I'm no longer a politician. I just take the position I take now. I am in defense of the downtrodden, the mendicant, you know, the socially displaced. And one of these days we'll deal with that as a separate show, why I do this. But I'll tell you why I do this off the cuff. And off the cuff, I'll tell you why I do this. And we'll do a detailed show on it. So unlike, anyhow, let me leave that for a little later. Let me stick to this issue. There's a man in breach of an oath. You all remember Patrick Manning saying, warning him in the parliament about his bitterness. I don't know if we have it, guys. If we do, I'll really be happy. Because I know you all have some crack shots there, you know. Manning said, argue your case. Everybody have a chance to do it. But not like my good friend. The minute you oppose my good friend, Mr. Speaker, he becomes very, very angry. And if you oppose him strongly, he becomes a raging bull. And then the deceased Patrick Manning continued to say to him, that bitterness, that acrimony, you know, that you have inside of you, it would impair your judgment. I don't know if anybody else remember that, but I remember it. I don't know if we have it here, but if we do, We'll play it. But Patrick Manning had to warn you, argue your case. Everybody have a chance to do it. And that bitterness you have inside, it will impair your judgment. And this is the terrible part we are on now, with a prime minister that have just said to this nation, he's not prepared to forgive a chief secretary. You are a constitutional office holder that took an oath. The chief secretary is a constitutional office holder that took an oath. But you are in breach of, you now have declared open breach of your oath. I remember I was telling you this story. I remember when I was a younger politician, young busybody, and so Breezan, I don't know what is the situation with him now, but he's somebody I liked, I must admit. Breezan with the little bar in Blackrock there on the stretch. And I remember after, I think I went up with the UNC, it was 2001. Breezan went with the PNM. They won, of course. And I took legal issues, but I never followed through because I say somebody I like. But it was political at the time for me to do it. And I took legal issues and so standing in my own name and so. And I challenged the legitimacy of Breezan's office, holding office, because Breezan did not recite his oath properly. In fact, Ian, no, not being unkind to the man, I'm making a point. When A&R Robinson deceased was administering the oath, he had to recite Breezan's oath for him in syllables. I, Michael Breezan, do swear by all, Breezan say all, my, God. I will bear true faith, and answer. That is how Breezan took his oath. And the reason why it was not only okay for him to say, listen, let we do embarrass here, it's a national thing, and sign here, is because it was important that you take that oath. It was important you recite that oath. And the reason, after reciting that oath, that book, you then sign what is known as your warrant of office. So no prime minister must be allowed, after taking such an oath, to declare to the same nation before whom he or she took that oath, to declare, I not forgiving an ex-office holder. I am saying to the Tobago House of Assembly tonight, from this place, and at this time, a constitutional motion can and ought to be filed against the Prime Minister for a breach of his oath. Right? That is up to them. That is up to them. Because what will flow from all of this? Let's internalize it, and let's internalize it honestly. What will flow from a Prime Minister in Port of Spain who already declared to us, it doesn't matter which dog we support or dog you support, is the size of the kennel is what matters. What will flow from a Prime Minister declaring to the nation he will never forgive another office holder? So a Prime Minister in Port of Spain say he will never forgive a Chief Secretary in the THA Tobago, knowing very well the antecedents of years of antagonism and confrontation and adversity and so between central government Port of Spain and the THA in Tobago. Do you think that what the Prime Minister said was appropriate? And I call on the PNM supporters to answer that question, because it's much more than Rowley's feeling. Now, if I have to get into feelings, let me tell you something. It's not everybody hate Crapo. That is what I want to say. Not everybody hate Crapo. I would bust a mark here tonight. But it would be at the risk. It would be at the risk of breaching the confidence. You know what? They're using the SSA to spy on everybody in this country. Now they're using the Law Association to be spying to her. They're using the Law Association to be spying to her. One Vishela Kedu spying on me every day. We had this matter and so going on in the court. She put a whole affidavit of every show I do here on Tobago Updates. I mean, she's a nice girl, you know. I mean, I felt flattered that I'm being stalked and thing, you know. But it kind of creepy too. It kind of creepy too. So the point I'm making is that they're using the SSA and the agents and agencies and so, and spying and recording everybody. Well, guess what? Not everybody hate Crapo. A friend from the SSA provided to me a message from the Prime Minister to Farley Chavez Augustine, begging him for them to hold hands again together. I could tell you some of the things in, you know what? It's them bothering me, eh? It's them bothering me. Let me read some of the things in it. Let me read some of the thing in it. Right. I find it. My brother Farley, I am appealing to your good conscience and your good self. Do not allow this madman to destroy the relationship between Trinidad and Tobago. You are better than that. Let us continue to meet and work together for Tobago's interests. I am Tobagonian, you are... So he's sending private messages for peace and love. And then he's on public platforms breaching his oath of office about who he would never forgive and all of that. But you see, the point is, when you hear Prime Minister say he will never forgive Farley, now you, Farley, all lawyer from bishops, that bishopian validating elitist group, all lawyer from that group. I not from that group. So seeing the elites warring among themselves is neither here nor there with me. But that was the position easy to take if it was about that. If it was about friends, if it was about people from the same societal norm, you know, from the same socio-stratas and so, having disagreement. When a Prime Minister says that he will not forgive a Chief Secretary, what the Prime Minister is saying, because he said it with his own mouth, you know. Remember he said if you vote for Duke, he will never forgive Tobago. Now he's saying he's not prepared to forgive Farley. Let us look at some of the things that happened. Now, I really didn't plan to deal with this in so much details. But let us look at some of the things that happened between voting for Duke and not forgiving Tobago. You all remember half the things that happened? Some of the suffering Tobago had to endure. So you all wondering now why they brought this old boat. You all wondering now why shells in Tobago are being depleted. And you all wondering now why the THA ought to get his money in a particular statutory way, but now they're getting it in a kind of haphazard manner. You all wondering now why there are just so much central government issues that are burdening Tobago. You all wondering now why the EMA is up here to shut down every THA project that raises its head. I don't know if you all know, but I will tell you that a member of the Rowley cabinet tried hard. She tried soft, she try high, she try low, she try long, she try short, she try up, she try down to disrupt the Tobago hosting of the few Commonwealth Games event. So much so that the dame, the British dame, had it went back and did an interview in a British tabloid, a British newspaper, and had some pleasant thing to say about we was. Yes, we was in Tobago here, but had some very unfortunate things to say about the Minister of Sports. Those are the fruits of a Prime Minister not being prepared to forgive a Chief Secretary. Because they're not friends, they're not brother, they're not father and son, that if may I forgive you, I won't give you a sandwich. They're not friends that if may I forgive you, you can't come home by me and have a beer. They're not brothers that if may I forgive you, I won't give you a piece of the land, mama give it to share. This is a Prime Minister saying he would not forgive a Chief Secretary. And the only people to suffer from that breach of his constitutional oath is the people of Tobago. So I want to tell you all something. You want to see how that forgiveness going and start to roll out? Budget day coming. Budget day coming. Look at the Tobago's allocation. And that is going to be the start of Rowley showing this non-forgiveness thing. But when I thought Rowley could get no worse, sorry, the Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley, could get no worse. He have forced me, when I used to do a show with one Richard Norrie, he's the Chief Executive Officer of a very spectacular financial institution and so. And everybody used to say, how you could do a show with that man? You are a leader in the financial community and so. He said, look, Thomas is a nice fella. He just misunderstood. But Richard said the only problem I have with Thomas is that he has his own dictionary. And I'm going to use my dictionary tonight. When I thought the Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley, could not get any more worst, he got worster. Now, I'm using my dictionary tonight, right? I tell you that. I'm using my dictionary tonight. He got worster. He got worster. Now, once is a mistake. Once is a mistake, but twice is a habit. And you all know what I'm saying? Once is a mistake, but twice is a habit. You all remember under Dr. Rowley's leadership as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, the Seabridge collapsed. Toilet paper was a scarce item in Tobago. You all forgetting that? That was of recent vintage. You all remember when boats couldn't sail, but a boat made a sailing to bring up 27 golf carts so that the Prime Minister could come up here and enjoy his tour on the golf course. The truckers met him outside of the gate there by the police post there, by the port police post there. He passed them. He passed them like as full bus. He never met with the traffickers, you know, the marketers and so. He never met with the store people. No, I will never advocate for the Chamber of Commerce. Lloyd Best would have described the Chamber of Commerce best, no pun intended. Lloyd Best, deceased, would have described the Chamber of Commerce best, no pun intended. And Lloyd Best would have said about that Tobago Chamber of Commerce, them is people to watch. He never met with them. He met with nobody in Tobago. who was affected by this situation that his government created so they could introduce the Cabo Star. But you know who he met? He went to Morshed's home in Mount Pleasant, down there, Bethany, by the cemetery area there. And he lapped his foot on Morshed's porch. And that was the only person he listened to in Tobago concerning this boat crisis. Eventually, that was settled. This is the second time. Once is a mistake, twice is a habit. So I want to show you a recording. And before I show it, I want to say something about the recording. I want to say the recording is not my work. And there are some journalists who could do well with what I'm doing now. Get your notebooks, your pencils and so, and you will learn something called journalistic ethics. You know, ethics. It assists your matters like your integrity and your credibility and so. Good evening, Liz Williams. You could get your notebooks. So it is not my work. It is not my work. It is the work of Cassandra Thompson Forbes. I saw it on her Facebook page. I did not seek her permission to use it, but I have read in detail what the rules are on Facebook, and I understand the rules are on Facebook. As long as you publish on the Facebook platform, then the material no longer belongs to you. It belongs to Facebook that authorizes it to the world at large. I understand that. But that is not to say I must not give her the credit for it. And the reason why I chose to rely on it is that Cassandra Thompson Forbes is a journalist of impeccable character. You don't have to agree with everything she writes. You don't have to agree with everything she says. That is okay. But she's of impeccable character. So I intend to use her work and rely on her work. Yeah, so I want to show it. So this is not the first time this situation have occurred in Tobago. And I want to show it. Put this way. Well, there is snacks, but I think if we look at the shelf, you're saying, okay, look at it. 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 All the water thing there in the missing and so. That is where we are. That is a result of what took place on how the Dr. Rowley's administration managed the crisis. Look at it. Look at that. There is a deep freeze, a chiller. Look at it. So, chicken. Yeah, look at it. Look at the chicken place. Look at it. Look at it. Look at it. That is a result of Dr. Rowley's management. But you know what was his response to that? When queries and outcry were made? If I tell you, you would be shocked if I tell you what was his response to it. But don't take it from me. Listen to him with your own mouth and listen to him with your own ears.
In terms of the Seabridge, there have been issues with the cargo stock going down, and Tobago has been complaining about shortages, especially in building materials, etc. Did that come during the retreat?
Not specifically, because that problem has been solved. You see, we have to understand that there will be days when things don't go right in your own private life. You get up in the morning, you're not feeling well, right? But you don't judge your course of your life on that. Sometimes, and let me just say this, as Prime Minister of the country, sometimes there are people in this country who are unreasonable. But it's we people, it's we, but they're unreasonable. We have a cargo vessel that goes to Tobago on a daily basis, taking all the cargo that can go to Tobago. That is Tobago taken. So you didn't, before the fire on the Cabo Star, you were not hearing anything about cargo going to Tobago. And then one day, there's an accident on the boat is on the way to Tobago, and there's a fire on the boat. I'm yet to meet the person who will tell me if I was in office or if I was in the ministry, that fire would not take place. I've not met that person yet, but that person exists. Immediately that emergency occurred, it created a new situation. One, first and foremost, life and limb, nobody was hurt. Secondly, the boat was taken out of service. So we now don't have the Cabo Star to go to Tobago. But in our service to Tobago, we immediately, not the next week or the next year, immediately we had an increase in the number of trips that the fast ferries were making. But of course, there's some cargo that they can't carry. But they could carry more of the smaller cargo. We put the galleon passage into service because the link between Port of Spain and Scarborough is served by the Cabo Star, the Spirit, the galleon passage, the Bucco Reef, and the APT James. I don't know any inter-island connection anywhere in the Caribbean that has a connection like that, serviced by that level, 5 pieces of expensive equipment. But the fire on the vessel created a new situation: 1, immediacy; 2, short term; 3, repairs to the Cabo Star, and back in service, and we back to normal. Why are we behaving so? Why are we behaving like that? As if it should never have happened. And it didn't. It happened because I heard from Tobago, because the central government didn't do this and the central government didn't do that. We are sensible people. That fire on the boat could easily have been worse. I don't know the conditions, but a fire on a boat is a serious matter. The bottom line is, fire put out, people come off the boat come out of service, and we are told that the boat is being repaired. If it takes 3 weeks, a month, I don't know that there's anybody who will tell me that if I was there, I could have repaired it in 2 days. That person exists. But the bottom line...
That is the point. Anyhow, no, I'm not going there. You all ever watch this is Flintstone with a spaceman, a kind of comic spaceman on their shoulder, and every time the little spaceman, I can't remember his name, but Flintstone and Barney Fred and Barney used to stress him out, and every time he tried to make a point to them, he used to tell them, but that is the point, dumb. So, but I'm not going there. I'm not calling nobody dumb. But that is the point. That if it take a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it is not about, listen, you are the Prime Minister. You do not see, you ought not to treat with, and you certainly should not be responding to matters in very simple overtures, with simple overtures and so. So you cannot keep your focus on the boat engine and that burn down. That is for the Port Authority. So the Port Authority, it is their singular duty. It is within their scope to deal with the issue of the boat engine and so. It is the owner of the boat business. And you must tell us who is the owner of that boat. It is the owner of the boat's business to deal with the matters of the repair. But where that action have triggered a chain reaction that have led to empty shelves in Tobago and so. Now, I note well I didn't hear from my friend Shamfor Kojo on this. The last time when all the shelves were empty with basic staples like bread and flour and salt and toilet paper and so. She wasn't too bothered by that. She came up, she went back to Trinidad, she told her cabinet colleagues, and then eventually told the nation, I don't know what they was quarreling about. I was in Tobago for the weekend, and I went to Penny Savers and I was able to get jumbo eggs and almond milk. Now that is the conduct of Lady Antoinette in France. That is not the conduct of a member of parliament for Tobago West, whose constituents can't get toilet paper, can't get rice, can't get milk, can't get flour, can't get chicken, and you are not concerned about your constituents, that sugar, You are not concerned about your constituents getting some of the basic staples as long as you get your jumbo eggs and almond milk. Well, I christen her tonight, Lady Antoinette. But I suspect we must forgive her for that, because clearly she learned a lesson, because she have made no statement on this occasion. So it is not about no boat engine and wait for it to repair in 3 weeks. Because, again, you all see the need for this greater autonomy and constitutional reform specific to the relationship between Trinidad and Tobago. You all understand it? So a boat breakdown and shells are depleting. And I verily believe, the videography of Cassandra Thompson Forbes, because I will swear by her integrity and her credibility. Unfortunately, I won't take the same position about Liz Williams. But I swear by Cassandra Thompson's credibility and her professionalism and so. So the point is, it's not how no boat engine prime minister carry that story and give dog. It is not about that. If you are in prime cabinet, you are prime minister and so on, and managing the holistic affairs of the state, then you ought to know, and you ought to be reasonable to know, okay, this boat engine breakdown. Minister of Works, advise the cabinet on what is the position. Minister of Works would say, Prime Minister, colleagues, the Port Authority advise our position to me on is this. All right, Minister of Trade, tell us something about this. Minister of Tobago Affairs, what is the issue up there? In fact, there's provisions in the law and so, and in the agreements and so, that allows the Chief Secretary, I think it's in the THA Act or the Constitution. I rather suspect it's the THA Act, that allows the Chief Secretary to sit in cabinet on certain matters. Right? Sit in the cabinet on certain matters. So in a case like this, your invitation, but you see, you're not prepared to forgive him. You're not prepared to forgive him, so you won't know. Because you're not prepared to forgive him. But in a situation like this, you ought to have moved on from your pettiness and invited the Chief Secretary to sit in the cabinet. And while the Chief Secretary is in the cabinet, the matters concerning this. So Chief Secretary, what is the position in Tobago? Minister of Works? Right. Minister of Works, what is going on? What is happening with the boat? Prime Minister, it will take 3 weeks or so to repair. That is what the port told me, Prime Minister and colleagues. Right. Minister of this, what is going on with that? Chief Secretary, what is the cry in Tobago? What is the position in Tobago? All right, gentlemen, ladies, how do we solve this? How do we solve this? And that is not the approach you have taken. You believe people was unreasonable because the shells were depleted and they shouldn't complain. That is why you felt people were unreasonable. Because the shells were depleted and people complained. That is your response to a situation like this. I see a woman messaging me on WhatsApp saying to me, a woman messaged me on WhatsApp saying, if they had to bring up, let me read it. If they had to bring up goat feed and sheep feed for a sheep farm, I bet you they would have found a boat. Madam, leave me out of that conversation. I'm not in that conversation with that. I don't know where she get that from. I don't know nothing about nobody's sheep farm and goat farm. And if the boat had to bring up goat feed and sheep feed, they would have. Look, I done. No matter, you see that woman there? That woman there, ladies and gentlemen, that woman there have brought me to the place where I think we should bring this show tonight to its end. To its end. I don't know anything about nobody's sheep farm and nobody goat farm, and if they goat and them. And And you know, she just won't stop. Now she messaging me to tell me that, let me see, the sheep farm, Mr. Skippy, the sheep farm and the goat farm, the goat them in air condition. Oh, Jesus, no. I won't be reading any more of these things, right? I'm not reading any more of these things. That is it. I'm not reading any more of those things. Or you're telling me things of, So the point I'm making is that, Tobago, take the notes. Commit it to your memory. Internalize it in your hearts. That a Tobagonian, for the second time, have managed your Seabridge terribly. And on the first occasion, they said, well, what they're complaining about, sugar and milk and thing for baby and pampers and toilet paper and salt and flour. For the one minister say, I went there, it had jumbo eggs and almond milk. In this instance, you have the head of the cabinet himself saying that you Tobagonians, you were unreasonable. You were unreasonable for complaining that the Cabo Star engine troubles and the fire and so, and the management of replacing the vessel and so, to take up this slack in the interim that have caused your shells to deplete. And because of this experience you had when this same Dr. Rowley's government collapsed the Seabridge and the air bridge, don't forget that. Because of that experience and the shells started to deplete, you started to panic. Well, the Prime Minister say you were unreasonable for doing that. Now, that would have worked for me if it was Patrick Manning from San Fernando that just didn't understand what's happening in Tobago. That would have been okay for me if it was Eric Williams from Belmont. That would have been okay for me if it was George Chambers from Cascade. That would have been okay for me if it was Basdio Pandey from Princestown. That would have been okay for me if it was Kamla Prasad Bisessa from Siparia. This is a Tobagonian that have taken that position against you, Tobagonians. Take notes. That is all I ask you to do. Take notes. Take notes. The time for judgment will come. The time for judgment will come. I want to end tonight, my dear. I want to end tonight, my friends. I want to end tonight, my friends, by saying to you, keep the faith, you know. Be your brother's keeper. Keep the faith. Keep the faith and be your brother's keeper. Render to no man evil for evil. Leave no stone unturned. Take notes of your abuses by this Rowley-led regime, because the time when you could hit back will come. Do not have 9 days memories. Do not have 9 days memories. Your time for reprieval will come. I repeat my call tonight as I end. I repeat my call tonight as I end. I call upon the Tobago House of Assembly and its Executive Council to press forward immediately with Tobago's full autonomy. Not half autonomy, not some autonomy. Press forward immediately with Tobago's full autonomy, because I want to see Tobago's autonomy in my lifetime, and I want to see it for myself and not another. So, my friends, this is where we come to an end with tonight's edition. But as I go, I want to say to one Gavin Walters, I think is his name. I understand he's some like some PNM sycophant or something. I don't know who the fella is. But I've seen some very nasty things he have been saying on me on Facebook and so. And I'm normally a very forgiving person. I am in public life. And I also understand criticism is a hazard of the job when you're in public life. But I say to Gavin Walters, I think is his name. Quite frankly, he's a non-entity. I don't know his. I just understand he's some PNM sycophant kind of. That is most I know of the face. Like he's a real sycophantic member of the PNM. So that is okay. That is a democratic right he has that I will defend. But I tell you what, Mr. Walters, you wrote again, you posted again, and I left you. People brought what you write into my attention, and I have decided to leave you. I have given you your 5 minutes of fame. It's now over. I don't know what you heard, but I is not of that. I don't know what you heard, I is not of that. The next thing you write against me, in the vein that you were writing there, I will drag you kicking and screaming before a high court in this country. Some people have suggested to me I should not sue you because they told me, and I verily believe, that you may not even have a posit to piss in or a window to throw it through. But guess what? I'll take the clothes from off your back if you slander me again. Folks, have a good night. And this is where we leave it. We will be back next Wednesday. With something new, something strong, something hot. Always happening right here on Vox Populi. That's where we leave it.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the commentators, guest, and host. They do not explicitly or necessarily reflect nor represent the policy or the views held by Tobago Updates or this network. Tobago Updates or this network cannot be held accountable for all or any views expressed during this program.